to Life Force Shamanic Arts and Healing. I am Joan Forrest Mage, the founder and director, and we are here today talking with Mary Burton, one of our artists in our show, and also has been a teacher here and many other ways that we're interacting to bring the wonderful programs that we have here. This show that we are in is called The Soul of the Land, and this opened in July of 2024, this year, and it will go until January of 2026. So we have about a year and a half shows, and that gives us a chance to have all of the other programs that we do at Life Force, such as the Shamanic Training Program and also the Healing Arts Intensives, which we'll be talking about. And I wanted to point out that one of our main things that we're all focused on, and that is the basis of a lot of the work that we do here, is called the Life Force Shamanic Wheel, the Life Force Wisdom Wheel. And this is like a medicine wheel that we work with that started, developed from the music and dance performance work that I did many, many years ago, starting in 1985, and gradually realized that it was really a spiritual system through the arts. So spiritual practice rooted in the arts that we do here at Life Force. And so I want to read the biography of Mary, right? So Mary Burton, BA SUNY Albany and MFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, is a child of diverse parents, Northern European and Russian Jewish, grew up on a farm in upstate New York where she was blessed to be immersed in the beauty of nature and life forms. Observations of light and dark, trees, the seasons, and natural phenomena, as well as an ongoing quest for meaning, inspired explorations of form and line in drawing, printmaking, painting, videography, and video image processing. She has exhibited with the Chicago Artists Month, School of the Art Institute Bare Walls, School of the Art Institute Fellowship Exhibition, and others. A lifelong searcher and student of mysticism and spiritual sciences, her studies include comparative religion, mysticism, symbolism, yoga philosophy, spiritual astrology at the Temple of Kriya Yoga, A Course in Miracles at Unity Church in Chicago, music studies at Old Town School of Folk Music, and New Tuners Music Theater Workshop under John Sparks, as well as working for the Urantia Foundation. Most recently, she has completed levels 1 to 4 of the Life Force Shamanic Training Program. Mary's family has been in what is now the U.S. since the 1600s. Her ancestor, Mary Bliss Parsons, was accused and acquitted twice for witchcraft in Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts. So welcome, well, I'm not going to say welcome, Mary, because you've been here for a while at Life Force. Yeah. And so thank you for being such an integral part of Life Force for so many years. We were talking about starting in 2015.
Right, that was the first show that I exhibited in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've been pretty much, maybe I might have missed one show since then, all the way up to the present.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you heard about Life Force, and also why did you first come to Life Force?
Well, I probably, I am always searching, and I'm always looking for questions that I've been interested in my whole life. And this was when you were on Lincoln. I think I came by and saw some of your programs and the exhibits you were doing there. I believe I started doing the shamanic studies when you moved over to the current space that Life Force is in.
Yeah.
And started exhibiting then. So I was intrigued, and by shamanism, I wanted to learn more about it, and I took the shamanic training program, the levels all the way up to the Healers Practicum, I think you just mentioned that.
The Ritual Leaders Practicum.
Ritual Leaders Practicum.
Level 4, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ever since then, I've been in many, I've attended many performances, also have presented in some of them. And one of them I helped,
It was called the Gifts of Saturn.
Gifts of Saturn, right.
Yeah, we'll go over the,
Right.
your chronology of
Mhm.
some of the artworks that you've presented here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I start with?
Well, I just wanted to ask about what is your journey with art and spiritual practice?
Well, ever since a young child, I loved art and practiced art and
This
growing
was out in
in New York. I grew up in nature, and
on a farm. Yeah.
My gift, my strength was drawing. Did a lot of drawing. Probably, and then I eventually studied art. Formally, I came to Chicago to the Art Institute and studied there. And from there, then I was curious about spiritual things and started searching. I'm always searching and looking, because there's always the big questions and you want an answer. And one thing about studying shamanism is that you learn how to ask questions and get answers, and that is a very practical and immediate, satisfactory spiritual practice.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Cool. So, and do you have like a philosophy or theory of art that you work with?
Well, I've worked through many, I've read, a lot of art criticism and theories, and actually what comes about to it, is it's not about being part of the next big school or movement. I always fantasized that I'd be in some kind of movement, but
Well, you're here. This
the
is
movement
a
I
movement.
mean is mine. Is moving myself from A to B and from addressing, going from, okay, what question can I ask? And or whether it's a question that's presented to me or or it's a question I thought of, it can be developed through art. And it's amazing some of the answers that comes and the spirit and the enrichment of one's life that comes about as part of that.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about that, this idea of how do you shape or structure your art, or what is your philosophy, and that you said, well, it's about answering questions.
Yes.
And that of course is what we do in terms of these exhibits. So this is the 41st exhibit that we've had since 2009. And of course, the earlier exhibits at Life Force were very fast. They were only like a few months, but now our exhibits are like a year and a half. So that gives us a chance to do all the in-depth investigation of what these artworks are. And the artworks start with a question or with some kind of, like a call for artists that we do. And I usually write those, and then they're all based in the Life Force Wisdom Wheel, different aspects of it. So this show is about the soul of the land. And so what is understanding the land that we live on in nature as a living being, and how the ancestors that have been on this land have related to the land as a living being. And so it works perfectly with what you're saying about you start from a question, whether it's something you might have or it's something that is a part of a call for artists that somebody else develops. So that's why, I think one of the reasons why you feel comfortable working with Life Force, because it works that way. That's how we do it. It's Life Force, sometimes artists have come here and said, well, you know, are you going to represent me, Joan? You know, like, are you going to sell my artwork, and that's why you have a gallery? And that's one of the reasons I started calling it an exhibit rather than a gallery, that we really work more like a museum rather than, like, say, a gallery or like an educational institution, which we are, to have the artwork that relates to the things we're educating people about.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
the wisdom wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, do you work in other art forms such as music or writing?
Well, I have
Mhm.
studied music. I've studied guitar and composition in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I still want very much in touch with music, attend music performances and things.
Right.
And we participate here because we have music group participation. We have
Yes.
drum circles here,
Uh-huh.
which I enjoy very much.
Yeah.
You know.
The Spirit Jam. We kind of transitioned from a drum circle when Kathy McManaman was here, because she was a drummer. But now we do, because we're vocal musical artists, like in Life Force Arts Ensemble, to leading it as a musical circle. So it can be any kind of, you know, music, like you could bring guitar or drums or vocals or, you know, whatever. We have a
Right.
variety of interesting
Right.
instruments that people bring for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, one of the things I wanted to point out, this here is one of our posters that we have that shows just some of the 41 exhibits that we've had. And of course, Mary contributed her artwork to be one of the cover art of the exhibit that we had, Art, the Language of Learning. And do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
That was actually a piece I actually did in college. It's titled In College, and it was just I loved drawing graph paper at the time, and listen, and I had a class where I had to listen to music, a music appreciation class, and it tied it all in there with my fascination with trying to put life into geometry, which was one of my themes over the years. And that's how that came out, just studies. I even, you know, I do like to do life sketching occasionally. Should do more.
Yeah. And we've featured a bunch of different artists that we've had in the shows. Like each one of these was an artwork that was in that particular show. So yes, we've had about 175 artists over those years, from starting in 2009, from all over the world. So not just local artists, but you know, people, lot of people in the, you know, Chicago and the Midwest, but also from, you know, France and England, Chile, South Africa. Yeah. So wonderful community of people that do spiritual art. Yeah. And we can talk about some of these photos that you've brought. These are some from the catalogs.
Yeah.
And I know that they're, you know, in the early days, we didn't have photos in our catalogs until Lisa Nomikos got here and had Photoshop and could design our catalog for us. So these are some of the ones that you want to talk about.
Well, we did art.
So you're going to show the camera?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a bunch of these. I have, this was from 2017. I have two. This was Hestia, and she was one of the spirit guides of this particular show, Art, the Language of Community. Hestia is, of course, the goddess of the hearth in ancient Rome, of the home, hearth. And here she is in her fire, and she's got It's kind of faint here, columns growing, Greek columns, Roman columns at that time, coming out. There's the elements here, water, fire. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
And should I flip to another one? We had Colleen Coziar, one of the artists in this show. She's exhibited, and she used to teach a class here, and I just did a very quick drawing cauldron of the painting class because I thought we made magic in her classes when she made her painting classes.
Yeah.
And this one is from the Passion and Vision, the Skills of Youth. And it's just a couple, she has got some kind of fruit on the vine and he doesn't know whether it's gonna happen or not. And that piece was picked for the show. I think I did that in response to the call for artists. That was a particular theme. Sometimes, I have, they accepted art that was, in this case, from Love and Wisdom, the Skills of Maturity, we have Shani Dev, who is Saturn, and in this, and it was during this show that I did the
Gifts of Saturn.
Gifts of Saturn, the writing of that about how great Saturn is. And another Saturn's steed is King Corvid, the crow. A lovely version of, he's also related to Saturn. So, and that's because I've studied lots of astrology, including Vedic astrology, which is from the Gifts of Saturn. We have.
So the interesting thing about the Gifts of Saturn, that was one of our Healing Arts intensives. And was it there wasn't the Healing Arts intensive, was it?
It was definitely
it was the performance.
And we wrote
Yeah.
the story.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had the original story, and Prongs Apollo Chapa helped me with this writing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so,
So that's an example of how the performances that we do are incorporated and play off the artwork as well. Mm-hmm.
and you had wanted to talk about Midwinter Tale.
Yes.
Which was a series of 10 drawings. Unfortunately, you can't see them very well here. And they were relating to stories of rebirth and of the sun, of Rosanitsa.
Rojanitsa was the, Colleen had suggested the theme of Rojanitsa, who is the reindeer goddess. Yeah, and we actually did a performance, Rojanitsa brings the sun. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, and here we have the sun is kind of sleeping and it's going to be waking up, and it's not exactly. It was just a series of drawings inspired by that. And oops, we have more of them. Lots. There were 10 of these.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they're kind
And I
of faint.
remember you were talking about, like you started making other, like developing the sketches, and I said, I think the sketches are really, really great.
Right.
So
I couldn't pick out one image, so we just
Yeah.
put all 10 of them in.
Yeah.
And this was the soul's essence, and we had a healing arts intensive called Signet Soul, and this
Which was about the ugly duckling.
right. And we had a few swans in this show, and these I did 2 of the images of swans based on ugly duckling.
So it was the idea of the soul's essence, which of course that's like the true self in the center of the wheel. Yeah, of the wisdom wheel.
Okay, and then we're going back. I did a couple for this show. This was The Soul's Home. And I have a path. This was a pastel that I'd done, it was for me. And it was about spiritual path. And I want to, it was just a guideline for me, and I wanted some artwork to commemorate my journey. And so this was a version that came out. And then I tried doing a yantra, which was a very interesting exercise, actually.
A lot harder than it
It's
looks like.
Yeah, Sri Yantra. Okay, now we're coming up to the second most recent show to now. This is Conscious Body, Living Soul, From Sentience to Sovereignty, and in which a group of 4 artists collaborated on doing a quadrants from our version of our thinking of the life force wheel. And I took the East quadrant, and this is called East Spirits. And it was just my thinking about what the spirit guides might be in this particular quadrant. And they're personal to me, as everyone might be, as who works with a wheel.
Yeah, and like in the wheel, as we study the wheel, each person has their own spirit guides for that section of the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And so these were your spirit guides as you were, studying about the wheel in the shamanic training program.
And then another work I had in that show was called Dreambird, which is a bird that I discovered when I was going like, what is this? I saw a bird one morning and I go like, what is this bird? I went
In
to the
your
zoo.
dream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I couldn't, it was like half waking up. And I go, what is this bird? And the closest thing that I came was a type of a grouse, a prairie hen, which is under kind of, they live in like Oklahoma and Texas.
Now, I want to point out, look at the difference in technique of the different kinds of media that you have worked with. This is kind of painting and mixed media.
Right.
This is beautiful,
This is acrylic,
more like
acrylic
classical painting.
paint. That's pastel. I've done pastel in the past.
Yeah.
These are pastel.
Do you have another one that has a lot of different types of media? Not so much. Well, sketching,
Well, of course, the current show.
the current show, so we can
have-
go on to the current show.
Yeah, and in fact, we're gonna go over there and we can talk a little bit about the piece in the current show, which is called Copper Woman, Mother of the World. And the original impetus was inspired by, we work with spirit guides, and one of the guides for one of the previous shows was Misha Pashu, who protects the copper in the Great Lakes. Actually, so it can be female spirit. There's male and female Misha Pashu. And also, then I got fascinated with the idea of copper, just because I love making handmade jewelry and I worked with copper. And the elements of that was, well, there's other ancient places where copper is mined around the world, in the Ural Mountains. There's a mistress, mistress of copper, and she wears a malachite dress, which is also copper. And there's an ancient mine in Israel called the Timna Copper Mine, and there's even indication that ancient copper, although not everyone agrees with this, is been found in the Middle East, that there was trade across the Atlantic. So, and then I put tube straps around the edge, but of course Steve Adams, who is the assistant artistic director, also helped me in the final touches, because this was I hadn't actually worked with gluing things from paper to canvas, and he helped me with
How do you
some of the
do that?
technicality, and he also helped one of the other artists over here.
Which we'll talk about.
We'll go back. Yeah, he put her bracelets and, he helped me with the final beautiful beautification of it. But the symbols in it are basically, again, she is a powerful woman in the pose, the garland pose, and she is giving birth to the world. She is the strength coming from a very ancient tradition that, ancient indigenous people valued copper over gold. And when the Westerners showed up looking for the gold, they weren't necessarily interested in the gold. They go, what is it? We don't use that. We use copper. And and also that's part of the story. There's a lot of things.
And the edging around it, you
Right.
wanna
Right,
tell us?
these are copper-plated tube straps from the hardware store, and they just kind of fit well. I was trying to figure out a way to frame it, and that just seemed to be sometimes the best solution is at the hardware store. I mean, for artists,
Yeah.
even jewelry, we can
Yeah.
do a lot. Yeah, there's malachite in her beads and her ankles. And the Venus symbol is at the bottom because Venus is the planet associated with copper since ancient times. Venus rules copper, we say. Like the sun rules gold and the moon rules silver, Venus rules copper. In fact, on the periodic table, they all line up in a line. There's copper, silver, gold, all under each other. So again, it relates to the soul of the land. We're talking a gift of the land, the wealth of the land. And in my case, it's learning about all this. And it's like an adventure. It's exciting too, and then it's also wonderful to see what all the other artists, how they take on this theme, from their works.
Mhm.
And I'm very honored to be in this show with all these beautiful artworks.
This is one of the best shows we've had, I think. Yeah, it's very interesting, very goddessy.
Mhm.
It's very much about nature, calmness, the calmness of nature in a lot of ways. I love that, there's a lot of it is about that, but then also Copper Woman is like the strength of the goddess, like that, like no nonsense, like giving birth to the earth,
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of Mishapashu is that is the protector of the natural resources, the
Right.
protector of.
a protector, a fearsome protector, as many goddesses can be around the world, but also a blessing and a
Yes.
source of
Nurturing,
nurturing.
yeah. Yeah, and also that, we have Copper Woman opposite the other large piece here, which is by Bianca Dorsey, Feeling the Tree. So just interesting, even in terms of the color, like the green and the orange.
Right,
kind of-
malachite green.
Yeah, but also kind of the opposite color spectrum, like the reds and. So, yeah, like one of the things that, I am a singer and dancer, so I don't have that much of a background. I've learned about, art and that kind of thing, but, my job is always to produce the more of the performing arts and that kind of thing. But actually having Steve Adams join us many years ago, starting at the beginning of having our own space. So I had been doing the work, since 1985, and it was 2008 when finally I had my own space, and the visual arts became part of that. And then Steve Adams always helps, design the exhibit. And we were going to talk also about the space right here, like you were saying, you loved the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a graphic person. I love these pieces by Shauna Orenite that are framing, and this one by Sally Cooper. And who also was, Steve had a hand in helping
Yes.
with that and making it the striking piece it is. And both of these two relate to trees. This one is the world tree, and there's a tree in
An
that one.
ancestral tree there.
Right.
Because that's called Siberia is the last one. Serbia. From
is-
Serbia to Siberia. So
Right.
also, where
Right.
Sally's ancestors come from. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is an amazing piece, Shauna Aura Knight. This is a pen and ink drawing. So, I mean, that's like, oh my God, the time that it would take to create. And of course, we also had talked about this piece by Lisa Nomikos. This is Steve's piece for the show, The Door to the Other World. And of course, this wonderful doll that Esmeralda Chanel creates a lot of dolls as part of her artwork. She's also a therapist, an art therapist, expressive arts. Yeah.
Yeah, she did a class, a couple mask making with us, and also doll making classes.
Yeah.
I took classes with her.
And speaking of classes, we were talking about the classes that you taught and also the things you wrote for our, we've had a blog that, has some of the writings of the artists and teachers and stuff here.
Pantheon,
Mhm.
it was. It's
Yeah.
still online,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote an article about Hathor,
Yeah.
who actually is one of the, also related to copper,
Mhm.
the mine, and other
The
pieces.
Max Ernst.
About Max Ernst, the
Frotage.
surrealist.
Yeah, you did
Frotage,
you
right.
taught a class and then you wrote.
Frotage, and I
Yeah.
did a little workshop in astrology related to Saturn, the
Mhm.
cycles of Saturn,
Yeah.
Eastern and Western.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and ancestors too, I did a few of those, a couple, honoring ancestors with an altar and
Mm-hmm.
gifts of food and prayers, and having people bring their pictures of their ancestors. We're coming to that time of Samhain, and that time of the year when it's important.
Right, and I know Lorraine Moretti, who did this piece, the Spirits of Turin, which is about her ancestors from Ireland. She had visited Ireland and then created this piece that was, honoring the ancestors there.
And Lorraine does the poets.
Yeah.
What do they call it? The
Lolo's.
Lolos.
The Lolo's Mystic Visions Poetry Salon, which we will be doing as part of a Healing Arts Intensive that's coming up, starting later this month in October of 2024. Yeah,
Looking forward to that.
exactly. So anything else that
I think
you'd
that's-
like to say? I mean, gosh, I think we tried to cover everything. It's hard to say
Thank you for
because
having me. This
Yeah,
is very fun.
yes, and not only that, but you've always been one of the artists who comes and helps and volunteers
Well,
to put all this
A
up.
lot of people do. It takes a lot.
It takes a lot
And
of work.
and we have to thank all the people that do all this work. And
Yes.
it does take a lot of work to put on these shows.
And
it's
we have to
always
thank
worth it.
Em for being our videographer.
Yes.
Yay! Thank you. Yeah, cool. So I think that's it, and just please come and enjoy our art. This coming October 15th, 2024, you're going to be here and ready for questions and everything coming during our open exhibit hours from 1:30 to 6:30 this coming Tuesday. So stop by. Bye. Thank you.